Yeah, he sure is. Oh, it's gonna hit him. It's gonna hit him hard now. United Front. Oh.
見せてみろ。引っ込めはげ。てめえの手当てでもしてろや。いいから見せろ。熱くなるな。
Yeah,
お前の悪い癖だ。頭を。
I was just about to say.
勝つために今何をしたらいいと思う。
United Front.
久しぶりに楽しませてもらったぞ、トルフィン。約束通り話を聞かせてやろう。
Yes.
お前の親父、トールズの話だ。波の戦士じゃ入団さえ許されない戦士団にあって、トロルとあだ名されるほどにな。
Wow.
狩猟のシグバルディは奴を気に入り、娘の一人を与えた。
Helga.
それがお前の母、ヘルガだ。
ヨウムの狩猟が俺の祖父。
そうだ。そして俺の兄でもある。つまり俺はお前の王子ってことだな。最後の戦はノルウェーのヒョルンガバーグ。負け戦だった。海戦の最中、トールズは海に落ちて浮かんでこな。
Wow, look at this.
俺は泣いたよ。いつか奴を倒すつもりだったんだ。俺のこの手で。近頃機嫌が悪い。
Get that hood back up. Let's go, let's go, let's go.
なんだよ。どこを突き歩いてやった。
Look at the size of his face.
ちまったじゃねえかよ。わかったわかった。落ち着けトルケル。俺は死んだということにしておいて。
This should be interesting how Thorkel takes this.
話が見えねえよ。何言ってんだ突然。
Yeah, he had.
決めたんだ。もう戦はしない。だから話が見えねえって。
Yeah.
まさか死にかけて
Tell him about
俺は分かった。
True warrior.
本当の戦士とは何かが。だから
Yeah, his reaction should be interesting to this.
ここにはいられない。狩猟の許しもなく抜けるやつは死刑だ。戦しか能のねえお前がここを去ってどこ行く。
There's a
ここ
place.
ではない。どこかだ。
I believe that was one of the titles of an episode, right?
大丈夫。お前、剣は。
A warrior doesn't need a sword. Yeah. Wow. Oh! Did you just knock him out? He did knock him out.
戦士に大切なのは魂。そのありかだ。奴の魂は遠くへ行った。俺にはまだわからない。俺にはまだ届かない。ここではないどこかへ。奴はアイスランドでどんな風に過ごしていたか教えてくれ。
嫌なこった。
俺は話してやったじゃねえか。つうか話さないんじゃなくて話せないだけなんだろ。目を見りゃわかるぞ。奴のあの不思議な輝きがね。トールズから何にも学ばなかったのがバレるのが恥ずかしいんだろ。いや待て。
Again.
てめえから殺すぞ。
普通にやれば間違いなく負けるぞ。
Listen for once, man. Come on.
あのバケモンの倒し方をな。
Bakemono.
奴は勝てば逃がすと言った。
Yeah.
野郎は誇りを重んじる。決闘の誓いは守るだろう。
Okay. Go on then, Askeladd.
お前の戦う目的を思い出せ。決闘で俺を倒すことだろう。
A timely reminder.
今だけでいい。俺を参謀として認めろ。
Ooh. Wow. Wow.
二人がこの場を生き延びるためだ。
あの人は桁が違う。きっと雷神トールの化身だぜ。
Yeah, he's built different, man.
クヌト王子はフレイヤ神か。
女神じゃん。
あれフレイヤの化身だ。
Speaking of the goddess. That theme's kicking in again, man.
奴の方から近づくように仕向ける。
Ah.
あれはモールドンの戦いだったが、あのトロケルでさえ重傷を負ったぐらいだからな。
Whoa, he was there, huh?
一瞬、
Wow.
ほんの一瞬だが確かに見た。あの無敵のトロケルが崩れ落ちる瞬間。
Whoa. Okay, so he's got some insight.
晩作尽きたと奴に思わせるんだ。
Hmm.
どうしたトルフィン？
They're trying to.
もう逃げ疲れたのか？
Okay, some sort of surprise attack.
いい位置だ。よくやったトルフィン。とどめを刺しに来い。あ
The
と
sun?
一瞬の隙。
Oh, he's gonna blind him! He's gonna blind him! Ah!
奴の弱点は
Oh my god. The score. Wow. So the man's got a bit of a glass jaw? Is that the implication? Oh! He's gouging his eyes. No. Come on now. Exactly. He'd kill all of you if you ever did that. Yeah. Wow, he's really looking like Broly. Oh. Oh my goodness, look at this. Freya in the flesh.
そなたも一等の狩猟なら誇りと潔さを示してみせるがいい。
Oh, oh, oh boy.
うるせえ！んなことてめえに言われなくても分かってんだよ！俺の負けだ。ちった格好つけさせろ。50年生きてきて今日ほど不愉快な日はねえぜ。酒！
Sake fixes all.
今のうちにずらかれぞ。
生きたきゃいけ。
Yeah, he wants to see Canute.
俺が何のためにここまで。
黙って見てろ。
Yeah.
それとトルフィンとアシュラットは私の従手だ。連れて行くぞ。
パーかお前は。獲物を黙って逃がす漁師がいるか？
He'll get him on his side. He'll convince him.
切り札になる。
But
考えているのか。
はい王子様。あんたは餌で人質で。
yeah, the king doesn't care much about
王子は諦め
young
ろ。
Prince
よ
Canute.
く書くんじゃねえ。
いいから見てろ。
下がれゲロ。逃げはせぬ。
Yeah.
短い間にお口が一丁前になったじゃねえか。何があった？
私に人質の価値はない。なぜなら
Half.
父は
Athor. God damn it,
私
forgot
を
the
愛
name.
してなどいないからだ。
Wow, look at this. Wow.
父は王位を兄ハロル
Harold.
に継がせる。
That's the name I was looking for.
私は兄の備えに過ぎぬ。
仮にこのまま見逃したとしてどこへ行く気？
Oh boy, I'm liking this.
ゲインズバラの軍団本営へ。父王と
Wow.
喧嘩だ。惜しむような命ではない。
俺はな、命は惜しくないなんて抜かすやつは腐るほど
Yeah.
見てきた。大抵は軽くこづいただけで泣いて命乞いしやがる。
Bit of a test.
てめえもその口だろう。あ？
It's the gamble, Askeladd. Let it play out.
嫌な目だ。
Hmm.
こういう目には見覚えがある。
Yeah?
お前らはその目で何を見てる？
Thor's. Wow.
こんな俺でもな、たった一つ後悔してることがある。なぜあの時俺はトールズについていかなかったのかってな。
Wow.
あの時奴についてってれば本当の戦士の秘密を知ることができただろう。
He's gonna take his chance this time, isn't he?
よし、決めた。 その喧嘩
Wow, look at this.
俺はあんたについていくぜ。あんたがこれから何をして何者になっていくのか見届けてやる。その代わりぬるいことしやがったら即ぶっ殺すからな。
Oh, oh my god. I love it.
今日より私の重視だ。
ラグナル殿を殺したのは私です。お切り捨てください。
Whoa.
ですがもし生かしおきくださるというのであればお役に立ちます。この一命に変えても。
ラグナルの分の働け。それが弔いだ。
必ず。
ついてきたいものはついてこい。
Wow. Wow.
スベン王を玉座から引きずり下ろす。
I believe you. I believe you.
マネックスな。何がマネだ。家来になったのは俺の方が先なんだよ。おめえの手下はあらかた殺しちゃったけど水に流せ。
Bygones be gone. What about Bjorn?
どの道水に流すしかねえだろうか。
Wow, look at this. Oh, loved it. Loved that, man. Right then, I've got to say, that was a great follow-up episode to the last episode. I mean, of course, the last episode, you know, it's an all-timer. It's an incredible episode. This one, I mean, how entertaining was that? Of course, you know, it has a continuation of Prince Canute and this path he's on. I mean, once again, it does end with Prince Canute, right? I mean, he's on the path to becoming a great, right? He's certainly on that path now. I mean, there's so much stuff going on in this episode, right? I thought it was beautifully paced. You know, of course, you have the added depth to a character like Thorkel. And, you know, that aspect of it, the added depth to a character like Thorkel. Again, you know, the character writing of this show, of this anime, this story continues to impress. It's just fantastic, right? And, you know, that might have been my favorite aspect of this episode, maybe. I mean, there's a lot of really great stuff in this episode, but, you know, maybe that might even be the best part for me, at least. You know, a bit of a deep dive, not really a deep dive, but kind of, you know, looking at this man, you know, beyond the exterior. I mean, and it's certainly quite the exterior. Speaking of Thorkel again. But yeah, you know, I love some of the flashbacks of him and Thor's, right? Some of his regrets, his thought process on it all, him not making that mistake again, right? Him taking that chance this time because he came across this Prince Canute, who he clearly noticed as a changed man, as a changed individual, right? He noticed all that. You know, he essentially looked into Canute's eyes and he saw Thor's looking right back at him, right? He knows that look. Right, it's a rare look. It's a rare breed, right? It's a rare breed of people, essentially. You know, these people that have enlightenment, essentially, that are able to see beyond the norm. You know, individuals that do have a larger understanding of the world around them. And, you know, I've got to say, it was kind of sad, actually, to see this side of Thorkel, or, you know, to hear about his regrets, about not following Thor's all that time ago. Right? He spent a long time thinking about Thor. I believe he even mentioned 15 years, right? You know, so that scenario has been running through his mind for a long time, right? That question, the meaning of a true warrior, right? He had hoped that, you know, Thor's son, Thorfin, could impart some of that knowledge, right? And he was quite open to the idea of this young adult, this young person even, you know, sharing some of those teachings, perhaps. And, you know, that's one of the things I mentioned in the last episode. I really like his attitude, Thorkel, that is, right? That he is open to learning, essentially, right? And, you know, in this episode, they kind of make it clear that, yeah, this has been something that's been on his mind for years at this point. So, yeah, how cool is it that someone like Thorkel is essentially quite a nuanced and layered character himself? Yes, you know, he does have that aspect to him, you know, the true warrior spirit of, you know, fighting and being all about that. Yet there is more to him. There is more to him. And I love the flashbacks, of course. You know, it was lovely to see Thor's, who still continues to have such a major impact on the story. right? And I believe he's going to continue having that major impact on the story, on the characters of the story. Just because he died early on in this story doesn't mean that he can't play a part. He's playing a massive part, an important part, not just for Thorfin, though of course Thorfin isn't there quite yet. In that sense, out of all of the characters that are on display and in focus, he's perhaps the most one-dimensional, right? And again, that's deliberate. That's by design, right? His time hasn't come yet. He isn't really. I mean, he hasn't matured much. Feels like a character that's been frozen in time at a moment in time, right? He hasn't really progressed much since the death of his father, right? Yes, physically, he's progressed, right? He's become quite efficient and quite devastating on the battlefield. But beyond that, there's not much growth, right? There's not much growth there. But his time is going to come. His time is going to come, and it doesn't feel like it's this season, as there's only 6 episodes left, and the major focus clearly is Prince Canute, Askeladd, and then of course the rest of the crew as well. He's put together quite the formidable army of his own, essentially, or a crew of his own, right? And these retainers he has now, Askeladd and Thorfin even, and Thorkel and his men. Quite impressive, quite impressive. So, the thing that has me really excited, it's his return, right, to his father, King Swen. I'm so excited to see his father's reaction to all of this, right? That is going to be something, isn't it? This son of his that he deemed expendable, essentially. Someone that didn't really fit the bill at all, right? As his successor, he made the decision to send him off to his death, right? And Harald was the one that was essentially picked as next in line. But, he's going to have quite the shock, quite the surprise as Prince Canute returns a changed man, a changed individual. He's out here standing tall, and he's surrounded by men that are built like monsters. I mean, Thorkel, right? Bakemono. But yeah, so impressive, right? And, I love that moment as, Askeladd tells Thorfin to, shut up and listen, just watch, right, as this plays out. And of course, that's the other exciting aspect of this, right? Askeladd gets to see this changed Prince Canute, right, behaving like someone who can be king, who should be king, who is going to be king, right? And of course, the last part of this was kind of seeing him essentially turn Thorkel, right, convince Thorkel, right? That was it. That sealed the deal, right? And the moment that happened, wow. I mean, you see Askeladd's reaction. I mean, that release, right? That release, it's a fit of laughter, but it is just an incredible moment, right? This gamble, this final gamble, essentially, that he took, incredible gamble he took, it paid off. He finally found that leader, right? That figure that is worthy of following, right? I picked my own master, as he told Bjorn, right? I'm the same. And yeah, he found him in Canute, and he took that gamble all that time ago. And again, there was so much riding on it, right? So much riding on it. Of course, his own life, the lives of many others that he put on, that he put at risk, that he put on the line. Of course, the prosperity of his own people, the wishes of his dying mother, all of that. And again, it kind of goes back to the first half of the series, right? Leading up to episode 10, Ragnarok, this notion of him understanding that, age and time is not on his side anymore, right? That, the time to just kind of go with the flow and just hope, something happens, and hope this leader, someone worthy of following, kind of just reveals himself. It wasn't time for that anymore, right? He had to take action. And again, I've said it a few times, the moment he chopped off that soldier's head, everything changed, right? The whole dynamic, the entire feeling kind of changed from that point on. And you could tell that Askeladd, right, after seeing this, after seeing the change and the growth he had hoped for, you see that he is completely on board. You could tell that he wants to be completely loyal to this young prince, right? He comes clean about killing Lord Ragnar, though that in itself is also another test, I think. Another kind of like, okay, let's see how he handles this situation, right? And of course, he doesn't want any more secrets because he does actually want to serve him, right? And like he said, even if it takes my life, or even if the cost is my life, I'll serve you, right? I believe him because, the other major death flag alongside Lord Ragnar was Askeladd himself, right? So I still kind of maintain that, Askeladd probably is going to die at some point, and I've got like 6 episodes to go. No, not 6, 5 episodes to go. Wow, I'm still thinking of episode 18, right? Just 5 episodes to go. So yeah, it kind of continues on that path, right? Potential death flag. But yeah, he's all in. But him coming clean about Lord Ragnar, again, it gives him a chance to see Canute's reaction. And given the fact that Canute is an intelligent individual, yes, he was angry. He must have been quite sad to hear that. Again, the facial animation of this show, of this anime, really stands out. And again, the animation of the eyes is so important in this one specifically as well. But as a whole, for sure. I've been saying this since the beginning. Essentially, there's just so much to read into these expressions. So again, it continues to impress from that aspect of it as well. Like I mentioned, Thorkel could tell there's something different about the prince. And, even for us, the audience, you could tell that there is a different look about the prince. The look in his eyes is different. Even showing the eyes is a choice in itself. You see King Sven, his eyes are kind of hidden in darkness most of the time, right? Every now and then I'll get a clear glimpse of him, but most times it's hidden in the shadows, right? Even for Prince Canute before this change came about, it was noticeable that Prince Canute kind of tries to minimize himself, be it physically, right? His body, he's always kind of hunched in, right? You don't see his eyes because his head's down as well. Now you see Prince Canute. He cuts a different figure, and all of them notice this, right? Askeladd notices this, and he's quite, shocked to see this. And again, that incredible scene, the fit of laughter. And then you see that Thorkel notices as well, right? That he's matured quite a bit in a short amount of time. As expected, he gets a bit angry, right? He gets a bit angry, but Prince Canute is intelligent enough to know that this individual, Askeladd, he can be an important asset to him, for sure. He understands that. And I think he maybe even understands at this point the actions of Askeladd, the reasoning behind him having to kill Lord Ragnar, right? This father figure he had. In that sense, he's killed 2 father figures, essentially. I mean, Thor's is Thorfinn's actual father, but, Canute's father figure, who he kind of wished could have been his actual father, is also killed by Askeladd. That's two of them now, right? But, here you see that Thorfinn gets to watch Canute kind of forgive Askeladd for killing his father figure, right? And takes a different approach. And, in that sense, Thorfinn is kind of getting to see a version of the warrior his father spoke of, a true warrior, right? Yes, Canute and Thor's, they're not exactly alike, right? There's a different ideology there for both of them, right? A different path. Yet they do have a lot of similarities, right? They do. They really do. Thorkel himself noticed it as well. These are special people, a rare breed. Actually, I can't say for sure that he's forgiving Askeladd, but, he's kind of overlooking it. He's letting it go. And he tells Askeladd, make up for that loss, right? You have to work twice as hard, right? For yourself and the contributions of Lord Ragnar if he was to be alive. Prince Canute is intelligent enough to know if he has an asset, right? He knows there's a use for Askeladd for sure. And of course, even for Askeladd, I mentioned, he found a leader that he's been looking for this whole time. A long time ago, he thought maybe that could have been Thor's, but that wasn't meant to be. That wasn't to be. But all this time later, a different type of individual kind of revealed himself to be a great potential, right? And now you see that he's fulfilling that potential. And I'm speaking of Prince Canute. And, a moment that I thought was quite sad was, that point Thorkel kind of, tries to get a reaction out of Thorfinn. I mean, it's not even him trying to get a reaction. He might actually believe it, and he's actually kind of spot on, and this is after he asked Thorfinn to, share some of his father's teachings and share how he kind of spent his time and his life in Iceland, right? After leaving that lifestyle behind him, that the soldier lifestyle. Thorfinn kind of brushes him aside, but even though it kind of felt like a joke, that he was trying to get under Thorfinn's skin, this notion of him not being able to actually share anything of his father or any of his teachings, because it appears that he didn't actually learn anything from his father, right? And Thorkel's kind of implying that you're just kind of embarrassed for it to get out that you didn't actually learn something from this late great man, Thor's. In that sense, you see that Thorfinn is being exposed to a lot of things about his father, right? Especially the immense respect a lot of these individuals had for him. You look at someone like Thorkel, who has an incredible, immense amount of respect for Thor's, right? He covered for Thor's essentially. But beyond that, like, you could just tell. You could just tell how much Thor's meant to Thorkel. You could see just how heartbroken Thorkel was, right? It's a great little moment. It's a funeral for Thor's, right? Then of course he turns up 3 months later. But yeah, I thought it was quite special to see how much Thor's meant to Thorkel. And Thorfinn is seeing this. He's seeing this. He's understanding this, that his father was a great man, an incredible man. I mean, in theory, Thorfinn does know the teachings of his father, right? But that's as far as it really goes. He has no understanding beyond that, right? He hasn't been able to implement the teachings of his father. He'll get there. But I feel like, a major stumbling block of that is Askeladd. And this whole, thing he's stuck up on or hung up on, avenging his father. I feel like as long as that is there, right? As long as that aspect is there, he's not going to be able to kind of move on. He's not going to be able to grow and mature. So yeah, let's see how it all plays out. I do hope down the line, after there is some progression in Thorfinn's character arc and development, that him and Thorkel do talk about the late great Thor's, right? That he does share about the life he led after leaving that life behind him. I think that could be a great moment for the story. But speaking of Thorfinn and Thorkel and then Askeladd, right? United front. That's one of the standout moments of the series, actually. Those two kind of joining forces momentarily, even, right? As Askeladd told him, for once, for this one moment, or this one time, let me guide you, right? Let me help you, because he can help. He can help, all right. And the insight he had after seeing Thorkel on the battlefield, actually, kind of taking a shot and kind of staggering to a knee, or kind of just, actually getting dropped. I guess Askeladd and his mercenary crew kind of fought alongside the Yomes, right? In that battle. They were hired, I guess. And I guess that kind of makes sense because Floki knows Askeladd. He knows about his mercenary group for hire. Though, I'm not sure, who hired them for that battle specifically. But yeah, he knew. Now, it appears that my first thought was glass jaw. And for anyone who knows combat sports, you've heard all about a glass jaw. And beyond him having a glass jaw, I think it's entirely possible it might have been brought on, right? Because of Thor's, right? Thor's not, in that flashback, they show us Thor's knocking him out cold. And to knock out someone like Thorkel, you need a lot of force. You really do. Though, of course, Thor's is certainly the man for the job, right? If you need to knock out Thorkel. But yeah, he hit him on the button, lights out, he knocked him out. So, in combat sports, I'm sure many of you know this, but in combat sports, sometimes once your chin gets tested, once the lights go out, you get knocked out in a brutal fashion, that kind of sticks with you, right? The glass jaw element of it, right? And even beyond that, some people just have glass jaws. Some people are built different, right? They just are. Some people can take a hit. Some people can take a baseball hit, right? There's been many, fighters over the years that could take a hit, but then there's been many really impressive fighters that once they do get tested, once the jaw gets tested, the lights go out. I've seen it happen over the years so many times. One of the greatest fighters of all time, he was an absolute titan walking the planet in his prime, Mirko Krokop of Croatia. This man was a beast, an absolute killer, right? Absolute killer. But he had a suspect jaw. He had a suspect chin. Now, I do realize this is quite niche, MMA, especially older MMA from Japan, Pride FC. But yeah, for those who know, Kevin Randleman just put him to sleep, man. That left hook. And that was around the time that Mirko Cro Cop was a god, right? Untouchable. He was, again, knocking people dead, right? Knocking them out. But, I'm not picking on Mirko. Mirko Cro Cop is one of my all-time favorites. He is, but that's one of the names that kind of came to mind. But, it appears that Thors must have done some legitimate damage, long-term damage to Thorkel and that jaw and his chin, right? And again, even beyond that, doesn't matter how big you are. If you get hit on that spot, if your chin gets tested, right? Especially in this manner, right? For a split moment, his defenses are down, right? He's not ready to take a full-on, kick to the jaw from Thorfin, who is quite established as a fighter, right? He knows how to implement a kick, a knockout blow, essentially. So yeah, even giants can fall. Now, that notion of Askeladd kind of, blinding him for a split moment. You see that Thorkel didn't make a big deal of it, right? He didn't cry foul or anything. He accepted his defeat, right? Because ultimately, I guess in his mind, a true warrior should be able to handle any of these unpredictable things that happen or come at them in the battlefield in the middle of a duel, right? Though you see him really angry at one point, right? Because he's quite frustrated. His eye's been gouged as well, so it's painful. The balls on Prince Canute, though, holy shit. Yeah, he's straight up just calling out Thorkel, though there was no need for it, right? Because Thorkel understands, and that's why he kind of got frustrated and angry. He told him, "You don't need to tell me the things I already know." And again, he almost has a Super Saiyan moment as he just starts yelling. Kind of plays into him looking like Broly, right? Once his hair kind of even comes out from the headband. But isn't it ironic that, the physical stature of Prince Canute and his actual look, right? People are calling him, Thorkel's calling him Little Miss. Some of these other men are calling him Freya in the flesh, right? Because he's that pretty. Yet this man, this changed individual, has a massive set of balls on him, doesn't he? He certainly does. In that sense, he kind of even reminds me of Commander Smith. He's starting to remind me of Commander Smith. And, in this one, yes, in this one, I could really kind of start to hear Flock. In the last episode, I mentioned that, I haven't really noticed his voice as Flock. But in this one, yeah, I could see a few moments, I could hear a few moments that reminded me of Flock. Like I mentioned in the beginning of the discussion, I really, really enjoyed Thorkel in this episode. Some of the introspection, some of the flashbacks, getting to hear about some of his own personal feelings on the matter. Ultimately, it remains to be seen if Thor's idea of a true warrior would actually be quite digestible to someone like Thorkel. But, the fact that he has regrets about this, that he didn't follow Thor's all that time ago, it was sad. It was sad to hear about that. I bet he became a true warrior in that place. He did. Yes, Thorkel. Thor became a true warrior in that place. And of course, now Thorfinn knows his actual relation to Thorkel, his great uncle, Helga's uncle. And, notice how I know what it means to be a true warrior. Now, it cuts straight to Ylva, right? As Thor mentions it in that flashback to Thorkel, who was making a lot of noise, right? He was making a lot of noise. He's a little bit frustrated. You would think maybe some of those soldiers maybe might have noticed all that noise, but no one really came to them, right? No one came to them. In fact, Thor ends up knocking him out and he gets out of there. But yeah, I'm really quite excited for this next phase. I guess this final stretch of the season, essentially, right? They all came together, putting their differences aside, let bygones be bygones. I killed all your men, but, little does he know, Askeladd hated all his men anyways, right? Though, of course, from Askeladd's perspective, he's like, well, yeah, I also killed Thor's, right? Bygones be bygones. So, this whole dynamic should be quite fun, quite interesting over the next few episodes. As Prince Canute steps into the spotlight, his turn to shine, his turn to lead, to be a leader of men. And of course, I get to see more of Thorfinn and Thorkel together, that conversation continuing. But yeah, this really has me quite excited. It does. And, recently I've heard that season 2 is on the horizon, that it's not too far off. Apparently a trailer is going to drop at some point soon, right? So exciting, man, exciting. You know, hopefully by the time I finish season 1, it won't be too long before season 2 starts airing, and I'm certainly going to do that live. I'll make sure I arrange things so I can do that live as each episode drops, right? Because I really need to do that. You know, I need to tap into some of the new stuff, right, as it drops. Because a lot of the stuff I do on the channel is kind of stuff that's been finished or concluded for years at this point. But yeah, if you enjoyed that, consider dropping a like, consider dropping some comments, give me your thoughts. If you're interested in full length or maybe even early access, consider checking out the Patreon page. The link is in the description or the pinned comment. Also, there's a link to Twitter if you're into social media. But please do consider dropping a like or comments because it does help the channel. It helps this get noticed by other fans of this anime. So yeah, you know, thank you for joining me and thank you for your time. And I hope to see you again soon for the next one. Until then, take it easy.